Hello, everyone. Welcome to Textile Talks. I'm Lucy Shaken. I'm SAQA's Communications Coordinator and your Textile Talks organizer. Textile Talks are presented by the International Quilt Museum, Quilt Alliance, Studio Art Quilt Associates, or SAQA, and Surface Design Association. We love bringing you these free programs every week, thanks to the support of our sponsors who you just saw, and thanks to contributions from viewers like you. All of our speakers today are Zooming to you from Philadelphia, where it is hot and humid, and we would love it if you would say hi in the chat. Let us know where you're tuning in from. Maybe let us know a creative project that you're working on today. If you enjoyed Textile Talks, please tell a friend about us, post about us on social media, and consider supporting our work financially with a donation at SAQA.com/TTsupport. And if you would like to be on Textile Talks, we just opened our call for speakers for the 2026 season. We're looking for fiber artists with eye-catching visuals and a story to tell. The application process is very simple, and we would love to hear from you. The deadline is August 31st, and you can find that information at SAQA.com/calls. And I'll just say, since I'm guessing we have a higher than usual amount of Philadelphia representation in the chat today, SAQA will have a special exhibition at the Philadelphia Museum of Art Contemporary Craft Show again this November. So please come by and say hi and look at some fantastic art quilts. Some super quick Zoom notes. This is a webinar, so we can't see or hear you, but we can read your comments in the chat. We have live captions provided by the National Captioning Institute. You can turn these on or off by finding the CC or live captions button, which should be at the bottom of your screen if you're on a computer, or if you're on a mobile device, it's in your settings. Please use the chat for commentary and greetings. We should have some time for Q&A at the end of today's program, so please put your questions in that Q&A box. And if you have suggestions for ways we can improve or for topics you'd like to see in future Textile Talks, please let us know in the post-event survey. Today's program is Building Community Through Art, a conversation with Vinci Art Alliance textile artists. Vinci Art Alliance is a Philadelphia-based intergenerational artist collaborative. We've sort of had an unintentional theme this year with a few of our textile talks of highlighting small organizations who are building community in big ways, and DVAA is a great example of this. I am a Da Vinci frequent flyer, and it has really struck me that every time I go there, I'm having conversations with artists who range in age from college students to octogenarians. And I know in the arts, and maybe especially in quilting and in textiles, diversifying the ages of our participants can be a challenge. Vinci Art Alliance's success in creating a community that is truly intergenerational, is one of the many reasons I'm excited to highlight this organization on Textile Talks. We're speaking today with Da Vinci Executive Director Samantha Connors and 3 fiber artist members, Richie Lopez, Gloria Davis, and Heather Marie Scholl. This is a really special treat for me because I've actually seen Gloria and Heather's work live and in person, and I'll get to see Richie's show later in the year. They are all phenomenal artists. So first off, I'd like to introduce Samantha Connors. Sam, you can turn on your camera now. Sam is a fiber artist and the executive director of Da Vinci Art Alliance. Sam's personal and professional work relates to gentrification and displacement, and they provide room to connect patterns and find ways to organize spaces of care alongside other people within Philadelphia. As executive director of DVAA, they oversee all projects and the fiscal management of the organization. Sam, thanks for being here today. I'll turn it over to you now.
Thanks, Lucy. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. I have a very, very quick slideshow so that you guys can hear from our artists. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So what is Da Vinci Art Alliance? Before I get to that, I figured I would introduce myself really quick. Well, Lucy already introduced me. But my name is Samantha Connors. I'm the executive director of Da Vinci Art Alliance. My background is in fiber and material studies. I graduated from Tyler in 2014 with that as my major. And over the last, I graduated 10 years ago, or I guess 11 is 2025. Over the last 11 years, I've been working, prior to working at Da Vinci, I worked with a lot of textile artists and as a studio assistant. And since joining Da Vinci back in 2017, something that I've been really passionate about is bringing in other art forms into the space. So when I joined, it was mostly painting and photography that was shown here. The photo that I'm in on this page was from a show that I curated last year with the Philly Dye Club, which is a group of artists that honestly should have a Textile Talk. They're incredible. That meet up I think twice a month, to talk about fiber and just like get really nerdy with figuring out different ways of dyeing and stuff. And then this is a sample of my work, because I felt like it was good to have placement of who I am as a person. I'm also a community organizer, as well as like a nonprofit admin, and a person. So what's Da Vinci? Our mission is we are an intergenerational artist collaborative that promotes creativity as a tool to build collective resilience. But we are also an art gallery, a 501, a community center. We're a member-led space, which is something that I think is really important about our space. We're, I think, the largest collective in Philadelphia. We have 267 artists that are all my bosses. And they're really like how we make decisions in our space is through like group discussion and votes, trying to bring in as many perspectives as possible for all the work that we do. We serve as a third space for the city. And for a lot of members, myself included, because I was a member before I worked here, Da Vinci's a second home. Very, very brief history of our 94 years of existence. We were founded in 1931 by 16 Italian immigrants. It was at a time where a lot of immigrants weren't able to be shown in institutional spaces in the city. So they created this club where they met up in each other's houses and studios and just kind of got together, did group critiques. There was a lot of picnics. We still have a lot of community potlucks. That's like a carryover from our past, that we really believe in. And then in 1966, we bought the building that I'm currently sitting in. And then in 2015, we hired our first paid staff members. So up until that point, we were very, very grassroots DIY space. Everything was hand built by our members. The guy on the left in this photo was our first executive director, Jared Markman. Dawn next to him, I believe, was our first marketing person. And then Linda, all the way to the right next to Sylvester Stallone, is Linda Dubin Garfield, who is our board president at the time, who brought in what I think is like our lineage of where we are today. And then the photo underneath that is a group of our members rebuilding our first floor gallery. So when I joined here in 2017, there was only that space. But then 10 years later, we now have taken over our entire 3-story row home for gallery space. We have an artist studio on the 3rd floor that we run a residency space in. We're constantly having community gatherings, as you can see in the photo there. We do over 100 workshops every year, and really believe in accessible programming. So our membership is sliding scale from 0 to $295 a year. All of our workshops are either a sliding scale or free. We really believe in intergenerational learning. So having youth work with elders and building real relationships with one another. Just creating a space where people can actually connect as people and connect to the world around us. So we do have a lot of like social justice programming. A lot of our work is focused around like what's happening in the world around us right now, but through an approachable way where people can have real conversations about it. And I think I tried to get a variety of photos here that you can see. Like we do street festivals with like live performance. We do workshops, we do exhibitions, and then we also do things like film screenings, poetry readings, like basically anything that connects people as actual people is what our goal and focus is, as well as showing a wide variety of art form. So that's me, and that's Da Vinci.
Sam, thank you so much for that introduction. Our first artist today is Richie Lopez. So Richie, you can go ahead and turn your camera on and start screen sharing your slides. Richie focuses on weaving and embroidery and is the 2025 DVAA Michelle Angela Ortiz Fellow. A community-focused artist, Richie also invites others into his process, offering workshops and collaborative projects to create shared spaces of making and connection. His art becomes a vessel for collective storytelling, where others can explore their own relationships with culture, memory, and belonging. His fellowship show will be in the Da Vinci Art Alliance galleries in September. Richie, please take it away.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Lucy, for the introduction again. My name is Richie Lopez, and I was thinking about like how to present stuff during this talk, and I thought maybe the best way to do it is to take you through kind of my journey as an artist and how it led me to community work. Um, so like people usually ask me like how did I get into textiles, and I don't really have a very clear like aha moment when it comes to textiles. The work just kind of came upon me when I think I was like super ready for a change. I actually started my creative journey through writing, and I majored in creative fiction in college, and I've always told stories. I mostly wrote short stories, family dramas. It was a lens that allowed me to work through issues of identity, culture, queerness, classism, the diasporic experience. So basically in every story, I kind of put my characters to hell. But writing was actually really painful for me and super solitary. So it started to kind of drain me creatively. And sorry, I'm in my art studio as well, and it doesn't have ceilings. So fast forward a couple of years, and I was living in New York, and we left New York. I left with my partner to join him in North Carolina because he was in grad school at the time. And I had a lot of time on my hands. I was trying to write, but I didn't really want to. And I came across this video of a woman like stitching on her jeans, and I remembered that I had taken this college class where it was like a materialities class, and I ended up just like starting little stitches all over my clothes and little swatches of fabric. So I'll share my screen now. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Okay. And here we are. All right. And so that's kind of like what kicked me off with,
Sorry, Richie, we're not seeing your slides yet. Would you try it again?
yeah, is it? Are you seeing it now?
No, I don't. Let me share the
Hold on.
slides
I
on
got
my
it.
end, and you can just tell me when you. Oh wait, here we go. You got
Yeah.
it.
Okay, I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you just click present, I think we'll see it full screen.
Like that.
Beautiful. Yes.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
We're good.
So yeah, embroidery became kind of one of the first ways that I was expressing myself in a visual way that wasn't literary. And to be honest, I was pretty terrible at it. So this is supposed to be a moth. It's still on my Instagram. You can find it just as evidence of how bad that was. Um, this is a cactus. My father-in-law keeps calling it an Easter egg. But it was the beginnings of something. It felt natural. It was like something that I just like wanted to continue doing. And then came the dog portraits. These are some of my first commissions, and I was super proud of them. I also really loved the little French knot nipples I made on Robin here on the left. Um, and I don't think I was charging nearly what I was supposed to. I think I charged each like $25, and it was like a week's worth of work. But I kept on trying, and I kept on getting better. And this is some like progress in that process. So technique was getting better, but I was still kind of like kitschy. It was like pop culture things, nothing necessarily that was like deep rooted in me yet. And it wasn't until I started pulling stories from my life that I felt like I was connecting with the work as work. So this here is a parakeet. My grandmother always had parakeets, and she was also one of those old ladies that wore like a turban for no reason. So this is her as a parakeet, and it's on one of her vintage napkins that I just had in a stash. I only had like 3 of them, so it's not like enough for a set, and I stitched on them. And these are my wedding shirts. So I started kind of connecting with it even more. It felt important and special to have this like handmade touch on things, especially things that I wear. So this is my wedding shirt. And then of course my husband was like, I want embroidery on my shirt. And he only really got the button line. And that's us wearing those shirts on our wedding day. And so this is when the work kind of took a turn. I started thinking about Puerto Rico, thinking about my experience as a Puerto Rican in this country and the island itself. And I was leaning more into the abstract. So this one here is called Encanto. Puerto Rico is called La Isla de Encanto, the island of enchantment. And this little blobby coral is supposed to represent the island and then the surrounding waters. Okay. And I reproduced it many times because it got purchased often. And some of these are actually in a hotel in Puerto Rico now. And I was leaning into this idea of the abstract in embroidery. So this is something I call tatter work. Again, still just kind of playing with form and structure. And this is me playing with color and some more abstract as well. Okay. And my curiosity for tools and materials started to grow. How can I make these things faster? How can I make pieces bigger? So I had a chain stitch machine commissioned, and here it is. It's a Mauser brand one. It's a replica of a Cornelli machine. And with that, I was able to make larger pieces like this. This is Flamboyant Dorada y Roja. It's a set. And they're about like 45 inches by 45 inches, maybe 40 inches. And it's all entirely with embroidery with a hand crank chain stitch machine that showed at a gallery here in Philadelphia. Um, so this is all, oh, this is some of the process. This is all at the same time I'm learning how to weave. I'm a self-taught weaver. This is me. I don't know, for some reason, a couple months ago, I loved tulips. I just wanted to do that. And I'm learning how to weave. I didn't go to school for this again, so I just kind of picked things up. With weaving, I started as an apprentice in the Bach building at Weaver House, and I really enjoyed it. But what I enjoyed about it more was being in that studio space with other people. So it was like the first time I realized like, oh, wait, my writer's impulse is to just be alone and work, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's what I have to do. So I enjoyed the community building aspect of it. And these are just some early works of mine, just random things. And then I started tying that very quickly into culture as well. This piece is called hamaca. Hamaca means hammock in Spanish, and it is an Arawak word. It's the language of the Tainos. And the materiality mattered here as well. It's made in banana fibers. Bananas are abundant in Puerto Rico and a big part of our culture. And it's made in hand-dyed banana fiber yarn that's dyed in cochineal bugs with jute. Again, here talking more about the diaspora. My grandmother that I mentioned, she only spoke Spanish, and at the time I didn't when I was a child. So, ¿cuáles son las palabras means what are the words? So when she spoke to me, it was kind of gibberish. It might as well have been like a hieroglyphic, some sort of glyph. And that's what this piece evokes for me with the embroidery. So tying embroidery into weaving. And then 6 years after Hurricane Maria, my family was finally able to rebuild a lot of the businesses that they had along the shore. We had a lot of little restaurants and such on the shore. So these were just kind of my responses to Hurricane Maria. And I had a lot of discussions with people who were affected by Hurricane Maria while I was making these works. So starting to bring the community into my own personal work. These are things that we were talking about it, and I was learning how to play with indigo as well here. So that's some of these ones. And then I started thinking about this idea of like what fiber arts looks like now, especially if you get online on Instagram, it seems like a very like white woman space when there's like so much history and culture throughout the world. Like every culture has a version of weaving. So I received the residency. It was a remote residency through Just Yarn. And I chose to bring a bunch of rigid heddle looms to the North Square Neighborhood Project. And they have a youth group there. And we started having this conversation about home, about neighborhood, about what it means to be from Kensington, which is a very Puerto Rican neighborhood in Philadelphia. And we wrote their responses on fabric scraps. And we used those fabric scraps as the weft of their project. So here's them on the top left with their rigid heddle looms. And we created an art installation piece. On the bottom left, you see there's a kind of like house-like structure. We did with reclaimed wood, and they used their tapestries to cover it together. They built this home in their neighborhood, and it's still in the Raíces Garden in North Square. That's another picture of it there. And then I was asked to run the Tramando project. The Tramando project is a project based out of Taller Puertorriqueño in Fairhill, which is another neighborhood within Kensington, and very, very Puerto Rican. The Tramando project is a community-centered ongoing workshop series within textiles. And the concept is to preserve cultural textile practices while also granting new skills to artists who want to pursue these things, and also foster like a sense of community and connection. So far we've had 2 modules. We've invited 20 residents who applied. And the first module was in fiber spinning and natural dyes. So in the fiber spinning, we actually spun cotton that was grown naturally in Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico has its own history of cotton that is very layered. So we had artists come from Puerto Rico to show us how to spin that cotton, and they also brought many natural dye elements, and we were able to like dye that yarn that we spun ourselves. And we did this for 6 weeks. So this is some folk that were like some of the yarn that we dyed. We did some bundle dyes. We used a lot of different plants from Puerto Rico. The second module was just wrapped up a little bit ago, and it was Guatemalan backstrap weaving. So we invited an artist duo from Trama Textiles of Guatemala to come and teach us backstrap weaving. This is one of the pieces. So we went through all of the steps, the whole process. And we were learning side by side, creating these pieces, making art together. And it was very beautiful and really difficult. I'm a weaver, but that was pretty hard. Do I have to wrap up? Okay, I'm just gonna get through the last couple ones. So my last projects and what's related to the Da Vinci Art Alliance fellowship that I'm doing, I'm running a series of embroidery workshops called Stitching Legacy. And it's going to be part of 2 projects. The installation that I'm doing for the Da Vinci Art Alliance is a full-scale sofa that I'm embroidering on. I'm creating patches using my chain stitch machine, and I'm telling stories of the diaspora and myth, stitching them onto the couch. And then I'm going to cover it in plastic, like my grandmother's sofa. And what that's going to do is preserve the story, but also kind of represent the discomfort of living within the diaspora, sitting on something that's supposed to be soft and plush, but it feels kind of nasty and uncomfortable. And with that, I'm having these embroidery workshops where I've invited folk to learn embroidery and stitch their own idea of what legacy means to them. And I'm going to utilize those pieces, stitch them all together as sofa armchair covers. Those won't be covered in plastic, and that is basically going to represent these fleeting moments of comfort that are only achieved when you find community and you live within community. That project is going to directly lead into my Velocity Fund project, which is a grant in Philadelphia for community-based artwork. I'm going to continue the series and take all of those fabric swatches and create a, an American flag that's been kind of reassembled into a patchwork with everyone's idea of what they want to leave behind. And it comes with the semi-quincentennial that's happening in 2026, the 250th anniversary of the United States. Once everything is stitched together, I'm going to have bells surrounded on the edges, and there'll be a processional where we walk from the Liberty Bell to City Hall, shaking the tapestry and having our voices collectively heard. And I think I might have to stop there. I just put more than I needed just in case. And I can just quickly show you, I guess, like these are just more projects that I have going on in my studio. This is one that I recently like wrapped up. And it's more about materiality. And this one will actually be in a show this Friday at Taller Puertorriqueño. We're doing a staff show, the first ever staff show that they've ever had. We have an in-house gallery. So if you're in Philadelphia, you're welcome to come to that. This Friday starts at 5:30. And this one is called Para Caminar en Luz, to walk in the light. And it is another woven. Okay, thank you. Sorry I went over.
All good. And the only reason that I'm yanking Richie off stage is because he emailed me earlier today and told me I could. So thank you,
Yeah.
Richie. That was so great. And I totally agree with Stephanie in the chat, who said in all caps, "I love your work, Richie."
Thank you.
So thank you so much. And I'm going to
Awesome.
switch to my slideshow now and introduce our next artist, Gloria Davis. So Gloria, if you want to go ahead and turn on your camera and your microphone down at the bottom of your screen. All right. Gloria's work incorporates a variety of techniques, including quilting, beading, printmaking, knitting, crochet, and sculpting with polymer clay and ceramics. Her work has been shown in museums and galleries across the United States, and I had the great privilege of seeing her current show this weekend at the Riverwinds Community Center in West Deptford, New Jersey. If you are in the South Jersey or Philadelphia area, you can see it too until August 30th. And Gloria, thank you so much for being here today. I've got my slides up so we can go ahead and get started.
Okay. Thank you, Lucy. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. I want to thank SAQA for hosting this program, this Textile Talk. And I want to thank the Vinci Art Alliance for selecting me as one of the featured artists. I want to start by telling you a little bit about me. I was born in Georgia and raised there. We lived in a little house right next to a stream. And in that stream, the sun was shining on it so you could see the bottom of it. It was a lot of tadpoles that were in the water, and I would watch them as they lost their tail and their arms and beginning to hop off, so that when it was the end of the season, then I didn't have anything to do because I would go there daily just to watch them as a kid. To start my fabrics journey, my aunt inside that house that was right next to the stream, my aunt was a seamstress, and she was a professional seamstress. I had a doll that I was making, and I was sewing the little dress on, and my aunt took it from me, and she tore it apart, which hurt my feelings. But what she wanted to do was to teach me how to sew and how to use fabric. And I'm the only one in the family now that does sewing or fabric. I made my wedding dress. To fast forward a little bit, I ended up with a free scholarship at Cheney University, and I went there when I retired. So I was a mature student living on campus, and I majored in art. I got my art degree there at Cheney. And after that, I ended up just making art dolls for myself. I was no longer just a doll maker, and this is as an adult. So I would make my dolls, met a group of friends, and we would vend with the dolls. And we were in Detroit, we were in California, Martha's Vineyard, and we ended up at the Detroit Afro-American Museum with our dolls in an exhibit. After that, I started to take a class from a friend who was teaching quilt making. And I decided that I'd take the class to support her. And I got more than I expected because she was the one who dyed the fabric, put the quilt together, sashing and all that. So I became interested in quilting from that point. Shortly after that, right after COVID, there was a call for artists from Carolyn Mazzalumi. And by that time, I was a little bit better at my quilting. So I submitted 2 quilts to the call. And I got an email saying that I was selected. So I was wondering if both of those quilts were accepted. So I emailed her and I said, are both of them in? And she emailed me back simply, yes. So that was my introduction that I could do something with this art. So after that, I began just making my art dolls and just enjoying the craft of making crafts and joining different groups where I could take classes and stuff like that. Okay, what happened was, what really jumped off my career was about May of 23. A friend of mine named Eva called me and asked if I knew people that would do quilting for an exhibit. And I contacted them and she said to me, well, let me see what you have. After that, I invited her over and she said, well, let's see what else you have upstairs. I went upstairs and I brought stuff down. She said, go back upstairs. The bottom line is what she said was that you have enough for a solo show for yourself. So I ended up with a solo show. And after that, I had people that came, curators that came, and I got 2 additional solo shows after that. So what I'd like to do is to move to my slides and give you an idea what my process is. The quilt there is very first step of a quilt that I'm making for my husband. It's sort of a way to get him to schmooze him, really, to get him into my art. He was an 82nd Airborne. And these are just the very beginning of what I'm doing. Part of what I do is with scraps of fabric. And if you see down in the bottom part, there's scraps of fabric that I leave them exactly as they come. So I don't change them. Most of the quilts that I do or the art that I do has scrap fabrics because I started out with that story about the frogs because that introduced me to nature. And I think that we need to preserve our nature and what we have. So my fabrics are fabrics that come from a dress or whatever that I use. So we can move to the next one. This is one of the quilts that was in Carolyn Maxlumi's book. On the left-hand side are the quilts are scrap fabrics. And I do dimensional quilts, though. And that comes from my doll making. This particular quilt has a young man on the top with locks in the front. That's in the forefront. And the colors next to him are the black and white. Because black and white is, our race is not the issue for me. It's more of a peeling back. That's why you see the fabric fold back. It's more of a money issue, the economy. And I feel that the police are used to sort of monitor the young people or the people that are black or brown or, you know. And on the side are people that are, we don't know, that might have been harmed by the police. Next. These are samples of my process of how I was starting. I started out with the figure and he was nude. I didn't think that was appropriate for art. So I put pants on him and If you see the young lady next door, I use French knots, and her earrings are just something I found in the street. So she's a Black woman, and I put a mole on her forehead because I have one. Okay, next. This is another quilt that Shirley Chisholm, and I tell stories with my quilts. Faith Ringgold has really been one that I idolize, I guess. And I try to match the fabrics to the story. Shirley is on the Constitution. I'm sorry, I was trying to read what was said there. So different quotes are around her, and one of the quotes at the very top is that she says that she felt that her race was more, that her being a female was more of a hindrance than being Black. And there's one at the very bottom left with the little kids, because even as a child, she was very strong. She would boss the other kids older than her. So, and up there is a metal Sankofa symbol. And I try to put that on most of my quotes because we have to look back at the past to go forward. Next. These are close-ups. And of Shirley, her hair is a scrunchie, and she wore pearls most of the time, so that's why they're there. Next. I use scraps, and this is mud cloth, which is made by the African men. It's a very coarse fabric, and I just use in all my art the scraps as they come. If you look at the one on the left that says Ulysses, it ended up looking like a skin to me. And right where you see the C-like cut, it was probably a jacket that the sleeve was cut out of. The fringe is safety knitting, quilting pins, because that's what you use for a quilt. And the fringe is from a bike, and I cut them up in strips. On the other side where Josh is, it's the same thing. I left that for about a year because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with it. And I ended up putting the face on it. So we'll go to the next screen for that. I use mud cloth because it fringes naturally on its own. So the purple eyes are lashes, and that's the natural fringing of the fabric. And the way the fabric is cut to sort of simulate a nose is the way the scrap piece was. And I do embroider. There are a couple of French knots on the adjacent piece, and another embroiderer of a Dinkra symbol. So what I do is I try to use exactly as it is. It's fabrics that are not necessarily new, so I use the perfections that are in the fabric. Next. These are what I call my show pieces. When I was asked to do the quilt show, basically I like sculpting, and the faces were ceramic. So I had to put them on a quilt. And then I had to engineer a way to put something hard on something soft. The one on the left are baskets that I probably got from the thrift shop. And the fiber that's there is silk. It looks like jute or something, but no, it's silk. And the twin on the other side has a handbag for the head, for the crown, and a basket that's reversed with a cake plate that's turned upside down. I like the fact that I can just play with things and see how they come out. The young lady that told me about this show, he was helpful with that. So that was my tablecloth that's in the background, and it was quilted. Next. This is my mom. It's a portrait quilt. Around the border or scraps that I cut from another piece that I was making. And there are different aspects of her personality that are on that border. Like she was loving, she was compassionate, a role model, and that she was dedicated. She was strong. She was the matriarch of the family, so she was just more than my mom. Next. And this is a close-up of that same quilt. Next. This is Sheila. What she is on is a sample fabric. Like if you're having a sofa, you can pick out a different color. If you look at the bottom, her dress, those are the different colors that that particular sample came from. So I put different embroidery stitches on it. And I like matching fabrics, and I like the fact that if there's a flaw in the fabric, then I'll find something to do to fix it. This particular piece had a couple of frayed edges. So on the first part, you'll see the corners are different, and that was to cover artfully. In fact, mistakes turn out better when you just let them go and find out which way to go for the other direction. So the fabrics just complemented each other. The face is polymer clay because I like paper clay, polymer clay, ceramic. I like all the clays as far as working with them. And her hair are African beads. That was a necklace. Okay, next. This is her in process with me deciding what to do with her. And it evolves. I never used the rope that you see there, so. Okay. This is my most recent piece called I See You. I just think that her expression in her eyes just makes it. Her hair is hair that you get from the beauty supply store. But I think what catches me is that her expression. Next. And this is her after I had embroidered her face. That's an in process piece.
And Gloria, I'm really sorry to cut you off, but we're running out of time here. So I'm wondering if we can skip ahead and if there's maybe one more that you want to talk about.
Okay, go ahead. I'll talk about Yellow Mary.
All right.
Yellow Mary is a doll that I made. She has, for her hair, that was a sleeve to a gown. Her dress is an apron, a vintage apron, and so is the lace, is a vintage lace. Yellow Mary, I named her that because there was a movie called Daughters of the Dusk, and they wore white in that movie. So I could have sold Yellow Mary several times, but and I put the frame around her because I thought she deserved it. It was bought by the Colored Girls Museum here in Philadelphia. So that's it. Lucy, do you have time for me to say what's coming up?
Yeah, let's
Oh, I miss Yo-Yo. Okay.
I'll just put this last quote up, and why don't you tell us what's coming up for you?
Okay.
And then we'll move on to Heather.
Okay. I'll be teaching a class at Fleischer's and also at Peters Valley. This is a memory quilt, and this is a sample of what I did. I'll be quick. The lady with the hat on is my mother, and you'll see me as a little girl in the bottom right corner. Up top is a graduation cap. My mom was coming to my graduation and she was late. So I was very upset, but I found out that she was sick and she hadn't told me she had cancer. So this quilt is very emotional for me. The bathtub, that's why I like doing memory quilts, because people get into them because it brings up memories that they don't even think about. The bathtub was, one day we lived in inefficiency and she didn't do what I want. So I got out of the bed and got in the tub because I was going to punish her for not giving me what I wanted. And the bottom line, she let me do it. And I ended up getting out of the tub later and getting back in bed because it was cold and hard there. So that I'll be teaching at Peters Valley, and I'll be teaching it at Fleischer's in September.
All right, thank you so much, Gloria. And I have to say to everyone, I am so sorry to rush the artists along. I know each of these people we could listen to for an hour or more. But I really want to get to Heather, and I think we'll go a couple minutes over today so we can get to your questions as well. So thank you so much, Gloria. And our last artist today is Heather Marie Scholl. Heather, you can go ahead and turn on your video. And I got to see Heather's show Resurrection of a Victim in 2023, and it was moving and gorgeous, and I'm so glad that she's here today. Heather is an artist and designer addressing issues of race, gender, and trauma. She was the DVAA 2023 Linda Lee Alter Fellow, and her work has been exhibited in galleries and museums and written about in magazines like Slate, Cosmopolitan, ID Magazine, and Bust. Heather, let's go ahead and get started.
Thank you, Lucy, and thank you everyone for sticking around to the very end for me. I really appreciate it. I figure I should just introduce that I'm living in Philadelphia, obviously. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon and Seattle, Washington area, and I have lived in several other cities in between then, but that gives me a little bit of location foundation discussion. I'm mostly just going to be talking about my art practice and focusing on a few different series that I have worked on. So in my work, I use hand embroidery, sculpture, and mixed media and writing to confront personal and national legacies of violence. I primarily focus on the intersections of whiteness, race, gender, and trauma. And my work seeks to foster an intimate and disquieting atmosphere that's informed by family histories, research on race in America, and my own emotional landscape that invites intergenerational reckoning. My work is about challenging systems of power and dominance, but really through an emotional lens and a desire for us to understand the ways in which we can all embody roles of perpetrator and victim. And I'm interested in how these histories are woven into our bodies, homes, rituals, and daily lives, and how they bleed into the stories we tell about ourselves and each other. Next slide. So the main series I'm going to be talking about is Resurrection of a Victim, which Lucy just mentioned. This is the series that introduced me to the Da Vinci Art Alliance community. I worked on this series from about 2019 to 2023, and I was a 2023 Linda Lee Alter Fellow. And that resulted in the solo exhibition of this work. You can go to the next slide. So Resurrection of a Victim is a series that uses Christian medieval art traditions, such as triptychs, altarpieces, and illuminated manuscripts as a site of queer healing. I reappropriated this own form for my own mythology of recovery from queer domestic violence. The work is delicate and intimate while also being really grandiose, inviting a reverence and identification from viewers. Ultimately, the work takes up literal and metaphorical space and making it large and engaging when all I really wanted to do when I was processing and making this work was to hide from it. And I was still, while I was making the work, I was still very much in the process of not really believing myself about my own experience, questioning it, feeling shame, all of those things. And instead, I chose a format that did the opposite, that forced me and others to look at this experience from an intimate level. Next slide. This piece was the very first in the series, so it deserved a little shout out. Oftentimes people ask how these pieces were made, whether I found the wooden structures or they were custom made, and they were all completely custom fabricated. And this is so far the first and only experience I've had having to work with fabricators in my art practice, which I found really interesting that my series that deals with healing relationship trauma was the one in which I had to work with other people one-on-one to realize the pieces. So the series consists of 5 of these altar pieces, and only 2 of them were made by the same person. So it was a journey for me in figuring out how to work with other people and make sure that what I needed was executed properly. You can go to the next slide. My process with these works really began with creating an overall sketch first. So I figured out the measurements of the entire piece and then broke down the panels that I wanted to stitch. And I began doing the embroidery long before I knew how I would have the money or how I would find the right fabricators to make these. The embroidery panels gave me a place to start and to keep momentum going in the series for me. Some of them took a year to make, some of them took over 2 years, 2.5 years to finish the pieces. So this image is just an example of what it looked like when I would get things back from fabricators I worked with. So basically an empty wooden shell, and then I had to stretch the panels and install them to finish and finalize the piece. Next slide. So that in process, this is the finished version of it. So all of that was then installed by me afterwards and finished with various adornments. This one is addresses kind of the part of relationship violence of falling in love and the kind of all-consuming aspect of falling in love in those types of relationships and kind of enmeshment dynamics. So next slide. One of the things that emerged through this series was poetry. And I had not really written poetry since like teenage years. And through this experience, as well as making the work, I just found that words were really necessary for me. I think it was a way to find voice when I was feeling voiceless and confused as to what I was needing to say anyway. So poetry became a really big aspect. Pretty much every single piece in the series includes poetry and text of some sort. During the Da Vinci show, I found it very sweet. One of the visitors commented that coming to the show was like reading a book. And I had actually had a vision of the show also being in a book format. And instead the show was the book. And I think that with the written work, as well as the size and detail of the work, it really forced people to lean in and look closely. And that was a very intentional decision in how I wanted people to engage with the work and the amount of like care and present in it. Next slide. So I had all of this poetry that I was writing through the experience. And as I was considering these triptychs and altarpieces that I was creating, it occurred to me that I could use illuminated manuscripts as another format to highlight the poetry. And these really focused on the text with additional embroidered details around it. This one deals with fantasy and love addiction as roles within abusive relationships. And next slide. And this one is often mine and other people's favorites because it is my explosive expression of anger. And it's often an emotion that I suppress and hide away in certain contexts. And this one kind of was my outlet for all of that experience. And part of my practice is, yes, making very detailed, intimate works, but it's also around engaging with communities and social justice and wanting to create community experiences of healing. So for me, the process is having this very solitary experience of making the work, and then also always feeling drawn to wanting to share that outwards. And how do I engage community? How do I create transformation around me? So with this series, as when it was exhibited at Da Vinci, it also included a panel discussion on domestic violence within the LGBTQ community. And I've since done several workshops on that topic as well, because once I'm done with the intimate part, I'm ready to share and impact the community around me. And next slide. White Work, which is the series that I completed before Resurrection, was really like the introduction into realizing that that was part of my methodology, that I needed both that solitary, intimate time as well as the sort of social justice, community guided workshops outwards as well. So this series I made from about 2014 to 2018 and addressed white women's roles in white supremacy through white work techniques. Not exclusively just the historic techniques of white work, but white on white techniques, broadly speaking. And this series, after I began making the work, I wound up connecting with other people and co-founding Confront White Womanhood, which we did anti-racism workshops specifically for white women and about whiteness and gender. And this was long before the mainstream conversation of that today. And for me, this work really came out of, I had spent many years in activism and specifically around racial justice. And after Eric Garner was murdered, I was spending a lot of time questioning, like, where is my voice in this and what is my role here? And it hit me that I really needed to speak from the intimate perspective of like what that experience is like for me as a white woman, and to speak to our experiences and the weight of that on our shoulders and complicity within it. And that's really where the work evolved from. And each piece kind of talks about different aspects of that. Some of those forms of racial violence are really overt, and some of them are more subtle. Next slide. So these are just a couple examples from that series. The series is bigger than this, but this is what I have to share today. Next slide. This was the first completed piece in that series, which was A Heroine's Veil, speaking on issues of white saviorism and the ways in which oftentimes when we are helping, we are also hurting and suppressing the agency and ability for folks to be empowered in their own lives. Next slide. And I am right at the 3. This is great timing. So this is actually the beginning of my newest series, which I am having to retitle, but so it's currently untitled. But this work really began at the end of Resurrection of a Victim. My grandmother passed away. She was the one who taught me how to sew. And I was sort of faced with this intersection of my own family trauma, and all of the things that that meant. So this work focuses on my Southern family history, specifically from Arkansas and Tennessee, and connects it to themes of whiteness, domestic violence, and sexual assault, and how all of those things are intertwined, but through like the very intimate storytelling of my family history. And there are certainly symbols within all of this that I could speak on in much more detail, but that's sort of the arc of the work. And I'm really interested in this newest work, exploring ideas of girlhood and grief and play as well. And you can go to the next slide too. And how through play we are taught these lessons of violence very early on, and the ways in which those lessons exile parts of ourselves and the mourning and grief that I think is necessary in that. So this is also a mini series, a mini collection of what I consider both dolls and ghosts that kind of represent that and tell different aspects of that story. So far I have these figures and the quilted piece that I showed, and a few others that are in the works behind the scenes. But I guess that's where I'm going to end it. Thanks for listening.
All right, thank you so much, Heather. Let's see, it looks like our Q&A, our questions that you all had submitted have been answered via text. So I think that's perfect, and we can end it here. And I just want to say thank you again to all of the artists for speaking today. I really appreciate your time and sharing your work with everyone. It's just such a treat to see 3 artists who are so different, but there's a through line through all of your work of community, and also of telling your stories and the stories of the people around you. So thank you all so much. And to our audience, thank you for watching. As always, you can find all the information about Textile Talks and our archive of over 250 recordings at SAQA.com/Textile Talks. And I'll just say, for anyone who's watching this later, Sam put in the chat that you can see Heather's show on the Vinci Art Alliance website. There's a video walkthrough of the full show, and in September, you'll also be able to see Richie's show on the Da Vinci Art Alliance website, so definitely check that out if you're not able to see their work in person. If you enjoy Textile Talks, we would love it if you would tell a friend, post about us on social media, or consider supporting our work financially with a donation at SAQA.com/TT support. Don't forget, viewers of Textile Talks can get $20 off the first year of a new SAQA membership with code TALKS, that's TALKS. And if you love art quilts, then we would love to have you join us. We will see you next week, same time, same place, for Archaeology of the Body, artwork by R. Mertens. Thank you all so much. I hope you have a fantastic Wednesday, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.